Hello, Kevin Nemacki here, and today we're going to learn about how to write a key insight when writing a creative brief. When we're writing a creative brief, the key insight tells us very important information that we need to know to come up with good creative ideas that are going to resonate with our target audience. The key question we want to answer when we're writing the key insight is, what have we learned about the target that presents an opportunity? So you have to think back to the target statement that we wrote that we talked about in the last lesson and get in the mindset of that person. And then we want to identify the opportunity. And what is it that we've learned that tells us that that is an opportunity? I've broken these tips down into a few helpful buckets. The first is what to consider. So these are prompts that you can use to help you come up with the material that might go into your key insight. The first tip under consider is challenges. What are the challenges that the target audience faces? You have to think about the target audience's goals and the things that they want to achieve. And then think about what are the things that stand in the way of those goals. Those are the target's challenges and often present opportunities that can make up our key insight. The second tip here under consider is educational insight. So oftentimes, if you can identify an educational insight, an important piece of information that if you were to provide and educate the target audience, that it would unlock an opportunity, that would be an educational insight and would be worth considering as a key insight in your brief. The third tip here, why would they care? So this is a question to ask yourself. Put yourself in the mind of your target audience or of your target consumer and ask yourself, why would this person care about our product or service at all? They would care because fill in the blank. That often reveals a meaningful insight that you can use when writing your creative brief. Our second area here, the second bucket, are the do's. And so these are things that are recommended to do when writing your key insight. The first is to be human. We want to consider human challenges and problems, not necessarily business challenges or problems. So we want to always think about humans first, people first. The second is to use research. So if you haven't done research before, now might be a good time to go and do some research. But we want to use research and use the consumer voice as much as we can. Have you heard directly from your consumers in some way? Whether it's in person or even through something like a survey, there's valuable information there that you might be able to use when writing your key insight. The third tip here under the do column is observations. Observations are a very powerful way to get at insights. When we observe people's behaviors, the behaviors of our consumers, oftentimes that gives us clues into key insights that we wouldn't have found otherwise, or that we wouldn't have found simply by asking them questions and hearing answers from them. Our third column here is the don't column. These are things we want to avoid or not to do. The first bullet here, all about you. We don't want to make the insight all about the brand or the business or the products. We want to make it about the consumer. The second one here, more than one problem or desire. This is a big watch out. We only want one problem, tension, or desire, one key thing that makes up our insight, one problem that we might solve for. We don't want multiple or many ideas shared in the key insight because it will create issues later when we write other parts of the brief. And then the third one under don't, same as competition. We want to avoid sounding the same as competition, being the same as competition, and in this case with the key insight, solving for an insight that the competition already solves for. Let's move down to examples. I've got an example of a typical insight and then a better, more strongly written insight to compare. Customers could do their taxes more accurately with our filing services. So you might imagine this is an insight in a brief for a company that does tax filing services. And here we've identified the insight as being a lack of our services. So they're inaccurate because they're not using our services. That's okay, but it's not great. A better insight in this case would be something like the one on the right. Most Americans unknowingly make mistakes on their taxes, leaving behind over $1 billion in unclaimed refunds every single year. There are a couple of things that make this example stronger than the first one. One is the insight that customers are making mistakes unknowingly. They're leaving money on the table and they don't even know it. That's an interesting insight that we can use to our advantage when we come up with creative ideas. The other is simply the sheer amount. This kind of interesting fact could be used to get to some really creative ideas. There's specificity in this example, and it's a meaningful insight. It's definitely stronger than the first example. If you use the tips that I've outlined here today when writing your key insight, it's going to greatly improve the chances of having a good creative brief and successful creative work at the end of the day. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button. You can ring the bell if you want notifications whenever a new video is released. And if you want more in-depth training for you or your team when it comes to writing creative briefs, check out the link in the description below. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.